Today's yoga session, we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. Normally, we start with the head and shoulders and we warm up that area and work ourselves down the body. Today, we're going to do the opposite. So, we're just going to extend one leg. You can keep that knee bent. You can even help support the leg if you find the legs a little heavy. And all we're going to do is flex the foot and point. So, you can inhale one way if you like, exhale the other. We just want to be mindful we don't go too quickly because that does increase that risk of injury. So we always want to make sure we're safe when we're doing any movements. Just helping to warm up the muscles. You might feel a little bit of a pull or a little bit of tension through the calf muscles when we flex the foot. Just be mindful, listen to the body. And if there's anything that doesn't work for you, just take it out or modify it. Find ways to change it to make it work better for you. Let's do two more on this side. Gently lower the leg down. Try to stay away from bouncing the heel off the floor. That's when we let momentum take over. So we want to control that lower down. So same thing on the other side, extending the leg, keep the knee soft, and flex and point. So again, you can help hold the leg if you find it's heavy, or even bring it down closer to the floor. You might hear a little snap, crackle, and pop in there. So just be mindful and try not to overextend the movement, doing what works for you. So it might be little movements that gradually increase as the muscles begin to warm up. Do a couple more here, and then we'll go back over to that first side. Last one. Now we're just going to again lift this leg up, and we're just going to do some rotations through the ankle. So again, you might hear a little snap, crackle, and pop. Just being mindful. Try to keep it slow and controlled. Just going to do rotations in one direction. Do a few more here. Let's do two more. Last one. And then reversing the rotation. Hopefully that synovial fluid is being released, working its way into the joints, reducing that snap, crackle, and pop sound that you might be experiencing. Let's do two more. Last one. It's the same thing on the other side. You can help lift the leg if you'd like. We're just going to rotate in one direction. You may notice you may have more flexibility or ease range of motion in one side to the other. Sometimes that is completely normal, especially if you're dominant on one side. So if you're right-handed, you may find that right side might be a little tighter, a little stronger. Let's do once more in this direction and then changing or reversing the direction. Nice little exercise to start our day, get some mobility and movement in the ankles. Especially if we find when we get up, when we do move, they might be a little stiff, a little tight, maybe a little sore. Let's do one more. And then again, gently lowering down. From here, we're going to take the movement and we're going to do some leg lifts. So make sure that your chair isn't going to roll on you and just shift your body a little bit forward depending on your chair because I have the sides here, the arms, it's a little bit harder to get that mobility going outwards. So we're just going to lift the leg up and just going to open up. So you want to use the inner and outer thigh muscles to open the leg and then bring it back to center. So you can inhale one way Exhale the other, if that works for you. That just helps us to keep the movements a little bit slower and controlled. Again, you can support the leg if you need to. If you find this isn't working the muscles as much as you want, you can extend that leg out a little longer. The longer the lever, the more difficult the exercise will be, or more challenging. Keep that back supported. So think of pulling that belly button to the spine. Let's do two more. Last one. Bring it back to center. Gently release down. Same thing on the other side. So opening up, using those inner and outer thigh muscles for the opening and the closing. We're not changing the bend of the knee, not unless you need to make it more challenging. We want this movement to come from the hip and using those quad muscles to help elevate the leg. But again, if you need to assist, feel free to do so. Let's do two more. Last one. Gently release down. From here, we're just going to open those legs up as far as you comfortably can. And we're going to bring the elbows to about mid inner thigh, come to a flat back. So think of leading with the chest. So we're not rounding through, we're lengthening down. And then from here, we're using the elbows just to help open those thighs up a little bit of resistance or tension. We're not forcing, we're not fighting with our body. So being mindful and just allow the body to begin to release tension, to soften. If you'd like, you can extend those arms down towards the calves, holding onto the legs. Find a way that works for you, but allows you to still stay safe in the movement so we're not compromising the body. And then when you're ready, with the exhale, just allow that upper body to soften. So rounding through the upper back, the shoulders, allowing that head to be drawn down towards the floor. Maybe feel that lengthening down the spine. And then with the inhale, walking your hands up the legs and walking the body back into that upright seated position. Okay, we're going to do one more exercise for the legs, and then we're going to move up into the core area. So this is one that can be really helpful for people who have knee problems. You can do it seated in a chair. You can do it seated on the floor. All you're going to do is you're going to take the leg and you're going to inhale. You're going to hold it up for 1, 2, 3. Exhale again, slowly lowering down without bouncing the heel off the floor. Inhale again, 1, 2, 3, slowly lowering down. So we're not changing the bend of the knee. I have my leg almost extended out, right? Softness in the knee. You can shorten the lever and bending the knee, but we want to make sure we're not bending the knee through the movement. This movement isn't about extending through the knee. It's about working through the quad muscles, strengthening the muscles around the knee, which will help to take pressure off of the knee joint. And I'm just going to extend mine out again. So still have that softness in the knee, doing that hold for that 3 and lowering down. Let's do a couple of more on this side. My back is supported. So if you have to shift back in your chair a little, think of engaging that belly again towards the spine. Let's do one more here. And release. So if you find that legs dropping down or the legs are shaking when you do that lift, you might be done, because that's when you start to compromise your safety. And we want to make sure that everything we do is keeping us safe. So again, extending that leg or finding that position that works for you. Inhale for that lift, holding for that 1, 2, 3. Exhale, slowly lowering down. And again, using that inhale if you want to lift. Maybe the exhale works better for you for the lift, and that's fine. We just want to focus on working through the muscles down the quads. So play with it. If you have to, bend the knee for some of the lifts to engage in that quadricep muscle and around the knee, then do that. If you'd like to make this exercise a little bit more difficult or more challenging for you, say you really want to work through those quad muscles and you just find holding, lifting the leg for the count of 3 isn't really doing it for you, you can lay some weights on the upper leg or even use your hands for a little resistance. We don't like to add weights to the ankles because that can compromise the knee and the ankles. So just lay your weights on the upper leg and that'll work fine. Let's do 2 more. And last one. Slowly lowering down. Okay. From here, I'm just going to rotate, turning to the desk, but I'm going to turn my chair sideways. And then I'm just going to shift my body so that way my hip and my knee are away from the chair, but my opposite side is still on the chair being supported using the hands on the desk. And then just slide that leg back. So it's the knee is still directly underneath the hip. So we're keeping that alignment for safety. And we're getting that nice stretch in the quads and then into that hip flexor. Now, the hip flexors are where we're going to have that shortening and tightening from being seated at a desk all day long, working on a computer. So this is a nice one to help reverse some of that damage that we get from that short muscles that happen from being in that tight seated position all day long. And then when you're ready, with the inhale, just gently release, coming up and switching over, same thing to the other side. So you can rotate yourself in your desk. I'm just going to hang here and do it. So again, I've got that body weight shifted half off of the chair, making sure I am secure. I'm not going to roll around. And then again, just sliding that leg back to help get deep into that hip flexor. Should be to that point of tension, never painful. Sitting up nice and tall so we're not slouching through the lower back, engaging that belly, pulling that belly button in towards that spine. Good time to practice that ujjayi breath in through the nose, out through the nose with that sound as the air comes through the throat. And then when you're ready, gently release that leg, inhale, bringing it back up to center, and then shifting ourselves in our chair. Taking a moment, just notice what you feel. Hopefully everything down here feels nice and stretched, a little bit warm. From here, we're going to move up into the glutes and also working on the hamstrings down the back of the upper legs into the calves. So we're going to do a pyramid pose. So we're going to use our desktops. And I'm just going to step one leg back. So we have that little bit of a pyramid shape between the legs. It's not too long of a stance. And just bringing the forearms, elbows down to the desktop, coming to that flat back. So again, we're not rounding. You can take the hands, put one on top of the other, sliding the elbows out, bringing the forehead down if that works for you. We're going to keep this front knee soft, and we're going to get that nice stretch up the calves, hamstrings, and then into the glutes on the side of the body that is that forward leg. So just finding that position with the upper body that works for you. Maybe you need to come up a little higher because those hamstrings are really tight. That's fine. Keep working at it. Allow yourself to release, let go of tension and tightness, and hopefully over time you'll start to see the improvements on your range of motion. When you're ready, with the next inhale, gently bring the upper body back up into that upright position. We're going to step that back leg forward and then switching sides. Again, coming to that pyramid position. So again, not too wide of a stance. Coming down again onto the elbows, the forearms. If you'd like, opening up the elbows, one hand on top of the other, resting the head on top. Keeping this front knee soft so we're not locking it. We want that little bit of softness. Flat back. So again, think of leading with the chest, engaging the core, belly button to spine. And then when you're ready, use that inhale, gently bringing yourself back to that bright position, walking that back leg forward, and then coming back to our chairs. From here, we're just going to do some rotations. So pushing through all areas of the bottom as we rotate through the waist. Think of making big circles with the upper body, or maybe they're little circles today. Hopefully feel a little warming sensation through the lower back. Let's do once more in this direction, coming back to center and then reversing the rotation of our circles. Let's do two more. Last one. Okay, coming back up to center. From here, we're going to extend those arms overhead. You can tap them if you like. As we exhale, we're going to twist to one side, looking over towards that back shoulder. Now, if you find this feels nice, but you'd like to go a little deeper, what you can do, coming back to center, is crossing one leg over top of the other, going into that twist. So we're twisting towards that top leg. So bringing opposite shoulder, say, towards the hip area. We're not hinging down. We're keeping the upper body upright, but we're looking over towards the back shoulder. Now, if you have the flexibility, you can tuck that foot behind or underneath the calf of that supporting leg still down on the floor. It's too early in the morning for me to do it. But if you think you can do it, you may find that that gives you a nice deep stretch up through the legs, through the hips. When you're ready, use that inhale to come back to center. And then same thing on the other side. So if you want to do that, crossing the legs up and over again, you can tuck that foot underneath the calf if your flexibility is there today. Tapping the hands and twisting, looking over towards or beyond that back shoulder, or keep both feet flat on the floor. This stretch is for you, so you decide what feels good and what's right for you today. Listening to your body. We may be able to do something one day and the next we find it so difficult. Sometimes we just have to give our bodies a break, allow it to rest, and respect what it's asking of us that day. When you're ready, use that inhale, come back to center. Exhale, releasing, facing the desktop, walking the hands along the desktop, getting that nice stretch in our modified child's pose. If you'd like, maybe press your chair back a little bit if you can do so comfortably and safely. And then walking those fingertips just a little further away. Think of lengthening down the spine, creating space between each vertebrae. Allow the head to release, allow the shoulder blades to slide down the back. So we're not pulling them up to the ears. Maybe even just following the breath, noticing our breathing, making sure we're not holding our breath, we're keeping that breath flowing. And then when you're ready, just gently begin to walk yourself back up into that seated position. We are going to extend the arms open. We're going to come into that self hug, one hand to shoulder, other hand to ribs, taking the chin to the chest, softening down through the neck, the upper back, across the shoulders. Allowing ourselves to release any tension and tightness with the exhale. Just let it wash out. When you're ready, use that inhale, bring the head back up to center. Exhale, release the arms, roll the shoulders back and forward. And then from here, we're just going to tilt the head so we're stacking ear over top of the shoulder, and then just tip the chin slightly towards the chest so you get that nice stretch down the outside of the neck and across the top of the shoulder. Being mindful, especially if you have any neck or shoulder issues. Maybe modify or change the movement to something that suits you better. And when you're ready, use that inhale to gently bring that head back up to center. Exhale, tipping the ear on the opposite shoulder, and then taking the chin slightly towards the chest. So being mindful, we're keeping that little bit of a tilt with the head, ear stacked over shoulder, and getting that nice stretch down the opposite shoulder or the outside of the neck to the opposite shoulder. Close your eyes if it helps to connect with body and breath. And then again, once you're ready, use the inhale to bring the head back up to center, roll those shoulders back and forward. We're going to go into that self hug one last time. We're going to do opposite. So if you can remember, take it to the opposite side. If you don't, do what feels natural and then switch it. And then as we exhale, gently taking the chin down towards the chest, softening through the neck, across the shoulders into the upper back. Being mindful how the body feels. Noticing any areas where we still might have tension or tightness. Visualize the breath going to these areas with a healing energy, dissolving the tension, and then with the exhale, just allow it to wash out. And then taking the head back up to center with the inhale when you're ready, rolling the shoulders back and then forward. Thank you for joining me for this session. Hopefully, you were able to release some tension and tightness, or just give yourself a moment to enjoy some stretches for yourself. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.